tap.
A starter gun always reminds me of when centre forward started just under 9 years ago. Back then, we had our old, well-loved hall that had been brilliant but was showing its age. And for St Patrick's, a new building was just a dream. Fast forward 9 years and now, almost unbelievably, the old hall is now gone. And the new building that we were thinking about is becoming a reality. The walls are getting higher by the day. By May, it will be complete and ready for fitting out. By November, it will be ready. We really are on the home straight now and moving towards the finishing line. In this, the first of 3 videos you'll see today, I want to share with you the grace that God has bestowed upon Centre Forward. You know, there have been several challenging situations where, had things gone a different way, Centre Forward would have been abandoned or at best put off for who knows how long. So what happened and how did God help us? Let's go back to 2015. Some of you may remember a special presentation held one Sunday on whether a building project was feasible. To maybe help jog your memory, here it is taking place, hosted by a rather youthful looking David King. After this presentation, the church family was asked about the amount of money people might be prepared to donate to the project. After looking at the feedback, as well as the estimated cost of a building, the PCC decided that the project was probably unaffordable, but thought that it would be wise to have a period of reflection before a final decision was made. Let's hear from Dave Atkinson, who was on the PCC at that time, on what God did next.
Well, during the period of reflection, Stuart Littlemore, who was on the PCC at the time and also a member of the project team, he visited his son David and family for a Sunday evening meal. And during the evening, Stuart just happened to mention the cost of the St Pat's Centre and the fact that, as it was likely to be unaffordable, the building project might well have to be abandoned. Well, his son David was really surprised because his own church, St Mary's in Reigate, had only just completed a similar project, but at a much less cost. David said that his church had used a company called High Star under a design and build arrangement. Well, Stuart being Stuart, he went to see the St Mary's Centre that very evening, and he was so impressed with both the overall quality of the work and of the design, let alone the cost, that the very next morning he was on to Peter Main, our project manager, and saying that, you know, maybe there was a chance that the St Pat's project might still be able to go ahead. Pete contacted High Star straight away, and in November 2015, High Star offered a design that gave us more than the original feasibility design and at a price that the PCC subsequently thought affordable. High Star were appointed as the builders, and as you may have seen, they're now on site building away, and they're just doing a brilliant job.
By 2019, things were looking positive. However, we had one big problem. When we were doing our financial planning, we realised that there would be times when we would need to pay money out to our builders before money that had been promised had come in. In other words, we would have a temporary but serious cash shortfall. Anna therefore made this appeal one Sunday morning, during COVID by the way.
We're looking to borrow money from various sources, but we would like to invite members of the church family, if you are in a position to be able to offer the Centre Forward project a short-term loan, then we would very much like to hear from you.
Straight away after that request, we received offers of temporary loans from church family members that were of sufficient value to cover the shortfall. Believe me, if we had not had those offers, Centre Forward could not have gone ahead. It would have been too risky. So we've already seen 2 great examples of God's grace, but there are more. We had always planned to sell the house opposite the church in Park Hill Road to help fund the new building, but we were wondering about the timing. We actually wanted to sell the house as early as possible during the project, not only because it would help our cash flow, but because we were worried about the risk of falling house prices further on down the line. However, by selling it early, we would lose the church office and the storage area for items displaced by the demolition of the hall. We would also lose rooms for our children and young people to meet in. What to do? Cue Peter Main, our Centre Forward project manager.
We asked our property agent to look at sale options for the house in Park Hill Road. To be honest, it was a tricky sale on 2 counts. First, we thought the number of buyers interested in purchasing a semi-detached house with a single-storey office by the side would be limited. Second, we wanted to try and sell the house in the autumn of 2021, but delay completion until the summer of 2022. This was so that we could keep using the church office while the centre was being built and continue to use the house for meetings and storage. And I always remember the agent saying to me that meeting these 2 conditions for a sale would be a huge challenge. Well, there was some initial interest in the house and office from developers and private child nurseries, that sort of thing, but the offers were not particularly high, and a delay of 9 months or so from exchange to completion was, understandably, a step too far for most. We then decided to widen the sale to include private buyers as well, just to test the waters. We did not expect too much from this at all. However, to our complete surprise, there was an immediate interest from several buyers, and because of this interest, the sale price went up. To cut a long story short, we found a private buyer who paid a healthy price, and the sale was completed in December last year. Amazingly, the buyer kindly agreed to us continuing to use the office and the marquee that we were using in the garden for storage until the end of June 2022, and at no charge. So, what we originally thought might be impossible proved possible. So there's a lesson there.
The last example of God's grace has to be the generous giving to Centre Forward by so many people. A staggering £1.5 million, and so much of that given during a pandemic. A huge thank you to all of you, and thank you to the Lord for moving your hearts to give so generously. Now you could look at any one of those 4 things we've just gone through and put it down to luck. Take them all together and surely we see the work of God's hand. Even more so when we look at these factors in the context of other areas of the project where the grace of God is also so very evident. Our successful grant applications, over £150,000. The way that we have worked together to make everything work so well during the build period. Lunch club, the temporary tents at the back of the church, the people who uncomplainingly rearrange the church chairs week in, week out, the great working relationship we have with our builders, whether it be Tim, the managing director, Fred, the site manager, or Dan, who mixes the mortar for the block work, and the overarching sense of harmony, purpose, and good humour. All these things don't just happen, they are there because God is working through our hearts. We'll see in the next video that we have just a little way to go before we hit the finishing line. But right now, let us sit back, reflect, and thank the Lord for everything that He has given to us with Centre Forward. I do that every single day.